Hey guys, welcome back to Bixby's Beer Reviews. So excited to have you here with me again today. You check the show description, you already know we're going back to a brewery that is rapidly becoming one of the BBR faves, a brewery where I always seem to have some of their cans floating around my fridge. That's Benchtop Brewing out of Norfolk, Virginia. Today we're checking out Slippery People. And Slippery People is a style of beer that I'm afraid has fallen a little bit by the wayside as hazies have basically taken over the IPA space, and that's a Rye IPA. Now we like to talk about some of the really fun new advances in the grists that are used, particularly for hazies, where you're seeing flaked wheat, flaked oats. We've had a number of corn-based beers here, and we've talked about rice lagers, but rye is something that I think kind of predates a lot of those, at least an American craft beer, and one that I really wish I could see more of these days. Because for me, I love the flavor of rye. I love rye whiskeys, and I feel like I really used to be able to see a lot more rye beers, around 2010 or so. So I was very excited to see Benchtop bringing one back. This is also a little bit interesting. It's a little bit of the old school, a little bit of the new school here, because we've got Azacca and Citra hops in here. So a very interesting combination, one I've not seen in a minute, so one I'm very glad to check out. So let's crack it open, take a look. As soon as I saw this beer, I thought I need to get a rye playlist going. So if you ever click through our link tree from the BBR Instagram page, you'll see got a bunch of playlists there, divvied up by style and ingredient. And so if you're ever looking to check out different examples of the same style, why don't you go check it out? We're doing a little promo for the alternate social channels, because although this is not necessarily explicitly a hazy IPA, it looks like a hazy IPA. Nothing wrong with that, though. I guess I'll just note it is not quite as hazy as most of the hazies we've seen. So much like the grist and the hops, a little bit of old school, a little bit of new school here, though. So it looks good. Let's smell it. So this is a very hop-forward beer, as its hazy appearance might indicate. The combination of Citra and Azacca is just this beautifully pillowy, soft, rich breakfast juice aroma, about equal parts Florida fresh squeezed oranges, and then those beautiful ripe fresh cut mangoes that well-used Azacca always brings to the table. So just a side note, Citra and Azacca is up there for me as like a top tier hop combo, along with like Rakau and Nelson, or El Dorado and Sabro, or Strata and literally any hop under the sun. So if you see it, always a good one to see. But as I said, not really so much rye yet. So let's see where rye shows up on the flavor. So there's where the rye is. When we get a typical haze bomb, the thing we're always kind of looking for is that rich, juicy body that carries through a lot of fruit flavors, a lot of rich, sweet fruit flavors. Here, it's a much lighter body, and I think part of that is the way that it's brewed. Part of it is also just the rye flavor. Now, rye often gets described as spicy, and that's not really the way I experience, or at least the way that I get it here. It's one of those things where you just say it tastes like rye. To me, that's almost, it tastes darker, a little bit heavier than traditional barley malt, and it has something of a kind of an unsmoked wood flavor to me, if that makes any sense. But it cuts right through the body of this, and it leads to a more medium body, a more medium dry finish, and it really plays off the rich fruit of the hops nicely. It's a beautiful contrast. Now, in the past, when I've had rye beers, what I'm used to seeing is sort of the imperial rye West Coast style IPA, where you get big rye malt and also big bitterness, and that in itself I think does well. But here I honestly might prefer where the heft and the sharpness of rye is playing off something much softer and lighter and sweeter in the hops here, and ultimately being used in a much more low ABV beer than I'm used to seeing in rye. So glad to see that rye is not forgotten as a grist. It's just such a wonderful, unique flavor, and I think that there are a lot of opportunities like this to contrast it with interesting hops that have come to the fore since rye had sort of its mini heyday back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. So thanks very much for checking out this interesting beer. Always love Benchtop, love their silver cans, love to see the stuff that they come up with down there in Norfolk, and I'm sure we'll be seeing them again on the BBR very soon. Hopefully I'll be seeing you again on our next episode, but until then, bye now.